Hey guys, today we're going to be bringing to you Tuned-In Archeries, how to tune a bow. It might upset some of the guys out there that do this for a living, but I figure, you guys at home, why can't you do it as well? It's actually really cheap to get the equipment to do it, and it's a fairly simple process once you know how to do it. So we're going to give you, as best as I possibly can, a how-to. Stick with us, here we go. First thing you're going to want to do is get the bow level. Once you've unpackaged the bow, I prefer to put it in an OMP bow vise, and that's just my personal preference. There's a lot of different manufacturers out there. There's a lot of different products out there that you can use to make this easier. I'm going to give you guys some prices as well as different products that I use that help me achieve a perfect tune on my bow. So let's get this Triax level. Now what I'll start with is try and get it by the eye level. And then from there, I got to give it a little bit of fine tuning to bring it into perfect level. All right, so now that we have the bow level, we're going to go ahead and put the rest on. By the way, what I'm using is a level from RS Archery Products level. You can buy these things right on Lancaster Archery. Everything that I'm using is from Lancaster Archery, minus the bow, obviously. Okay, so we have a QAD Mathews edition that we're going to be putting on this Triax. So all you got to do is get your Allen wrench, and what we're going to end up doing here, it's a 3/16. What we're going to end up doing here is we're just going to eye it up to start, okay? How we'll do that, bring it on in, set it in the burger hole. Burger, some people call it different things, but it's all the same. Now what's kind of nice about these QADs, not all rests are the same. Some will need leveled, some will need brought up, down to get it level with the string, not to the bow. The back of the bow is not always level, I've found. Level it to the string. However, what you can do with these QADs is you can run them right up to the bow, and these actually fit perfectly on these Mathews bows. If it's a Mathews edition QAD, it fits perfectly to the Mathews riser. Same thing goes for a Bowtech. I'm not real sure what else they make specific for the bow, but in this scenario, this QAD does actually fit on this Mathews perfect. So we'll get that baby good and locked down. Once you have that locked in good and tight, you can go ahead and put in your harmonic dampener. Comes with the rest. All right, so now that you have the rest attached to the bow, our next step is going to be our D-loop. How I end up doing that is I'll take an arrow, whatever arrow it is that the customer will be shooting, or in this case, my good friend Cody will be shooting. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and mount the arrow to the bow, and it's going to just dangle for the moment. So I have an RS Archery level. Okay, this thing makes it sweet and easy, simple, quick. All these products you can find on LancasterArchery.com, and they are affordable. So I use Pine Ridge Nitro Loop. That's just what seems to work for me. So we're going to go ahead and take this Pine Ridge Nitro Loop, D-loop material, and we're going to go ahead and cut off, I'd say like 6 inches or so. I'll end up having extra when it's all said and done, but I'd rather have a little bit of extra when I go to tie. It just makes it a little easier on you. So, okay, now that you have your loop out, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fray the end of it. Then from there, what you'll need to do is burn it. And I always like to pat it on the end of my lighter. What that does is it forms a nice end on it. Okay, so now that we have the end burnt, we're ready to go ahead and get this baby attached on here. So tying a D-loop is pretty simple for someone who does it a lot. If you're just getting started out, I've had guys trying to teach them how to tune the bows. They seem to have trouble with it, but it's a very simple knot. There's very in-depth ways or instructional videos on YouTube that I recommend you check out. There's a lot of information on there. This is gonna hopefully help in hand with those other videos. So just go ahead, jump on YouTube and type in how to tie a D-loop. It's very simple. Once you've done it once, it's almost like riding a bicycle. You know how to do it. Okay, so now that we have our top loop is tied, not tight, we'd still be able to move it on this serving, but it's tied in. So what we'll do now is we'll come down here to our level, okay? And that's really high, so what I'll do is I'll chase it, I'll move it up. And once you have that arrow perfectly level, that's where you're gonna end up setting your D-loop so long now. This is something you're gonna wanna check. Like I said, these QADs line up perfect with these Mathews bows. The Mathews Edition QADs line up perfect with the Mathews bows. But what you're gonna wanna do is make sure that your arrow perfectly is in line with this burger hole, okay? On this side of the bow, there's actually a screw hole you'll be able to see, and it'll line up perfect. And in this case, it certainly does. So what I'm gonna do on this bow from here is I'll tie my bottom in. Now, once I have that bottom tied in nice and tight, I want it tight to the nock. What I will do is leave it tight for the moment, okay? If you have this next tool, my next tool I'm going to show you, I cannot tell you how much I love this product. So what it is, okay, is an outer limits D-loop stretcher. It will stretch your D-loop to the max, and it will make that baby so tight you will not be able to move it. You'll never have any issues with it whatsoever. I really like this. Some guys will use needle nose pliers like these here and spread the D-loop apart. I prefer to use the pliers. Whatever floats your boat, you go ahead and do that. All right, so now that we're happy with the level, what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna go ahead and take the arrow off carefully, not to move your D-loop in any way, shape, or form. And we got this OMP bow vise that moves all over the place. That's what I love about this thing. Go ahead and bring it down for you now. And you're gonna cut off as close to that D-loop as you possibly can without cutting the D-loop itself. You have a tag end on your D-loop material. Cut it off. And once again, what we'll now need to do is go ahead and fray the end of it. Now, this part is very important. This is something I have done myself even, and I have seen a lot of guys that have had it happen on their bows. So when your flames rise, okay, heat comes up. Obviously, we all know that, right? So when you're going to burn the end of this, you got to watch, you'll burn the back end of your D-loop, and what will happen is over time, as you're pulling that bow back and you're shooting it repeatedly, it will get. So one thing that I use, it's actually a really cheapo screwdriver. It's a pry bar is what it is. It splits. And I will cover my D-loop and just leave the part that I want burned exposed. It acts as a heat barrier. So get a good burn on that. And once you're good and hot, it's melted, give it a couple taps. Make sure that you get a nice flat surface on there. Let it cool a little bit. Okay, so now that the D-loop is cooled, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this outer limits D-loop stretcher. And what's sweet about this baby is you can put this thing inside of there and torque on it this way. And then what I really like about this is it gives me the perfect space between the top and the bottom tie when you stretch it. Some guys use needle nose pliers. I use these. I tie it as tight as possible, and it gives you a nice tight loop. Not too tight, because what you can find out is that it will, especially on this shorter axle to axle bow, you'll have a string pitch, which is a tighter tolerance than, say, like a 35-inch bow or some of these other big target bows. And when you have the string pitch off these smaller bows, it will actually pinch your nock and your arrow will fall off. And we don't want that, especially if you're out there in the woods. So now that we have the D-loop tied, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and lift this bow back up. and find level. This is not a necessary step, but it's always good to second check everything. This needs to come down a little bit. All right, so now that we have the rest mounted, D-loops tied in, arrows level, what we're gonna do now is get our timing down on our rest. So all you gotta do is either put it on below the serving or 3 inches, at least 3 inches below. So in this case, on this bow, the serving does go below 3 inches. All right, so we're gonna actually use the keeper that comes with the QAD rest. So all you gotta do, some people do prefer to serve theirs in, and that's nothing wrong with that. It just makes it easier on me as the guy tuning, or you who will also be tuning the bow, to make the adjustments. It's pretty sweet how this works. All you'll need to do is go ahead and tighten that down until it holds tight on your downward cable. I didn't stress that, I'm sorry. You'll want to put it on your downward cable, and in this case it's the cable that will, as the cam rotates, go off the front side of the cam. What you'll see here is this cable that goes to your QAD rest will move inside of there, and that's perfect. You do want that, okay? Where it means we're loose enough, we're not too tight to where it won't adjust itself. It's self-adjusting. So here's what we do. Go ahead and bring it down so that the rest is in the upward position, okay? All you have to do is draw this bow and that cord will be set. So I've got a target downrange. Be very careful when doing this. Just have a nice controlled draw. Man, that back wall on that bow is awesome. It's hard to let it down. So now all we got to do is lock this baby in as tight as you can get this screw. Don't strip it. I mean, don't get crazy with it, but make sure it's good and tight. And it should be set. So now we should be able to take a shot with it, but what I'm going to recommend you do is make sure that the rest engages. And when I say engage, what that will do is it will actually lift up a little bit. That means that it's engaged and you're ready to shoot. So this is gonna be the first shot out of this new Triax. Let's see how it goes. You guys get the first glimpse. That's sweet. All right, so now that we've established that our timing on our rest is correct, what I'll now do is I will get our center shot on the bow. And what I'm gonna show you guys next, I'm not kidding, this is one of the coolest tools I have ever used in tuning a bow. It's the Easy Eye, Easy Center, all aluminum laser tuning aid. This thing is sweet, man. It doesn't get it exact, but it gets it darn close. So what we'll do is you put it in your sight screw holes. Get that thing good and tight to your riser. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this a little bit because I like to be able to see down a perfect line. Now, put an arrow on. Knock your arrow and bring your rest up. Don't expect it to be perfect right out of the box, but what you'll do is you'll get that laser perfectly set to the back of your string, and as it rolls down the arrow, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's rolling down the arrow. See, it starts to come off to the right side of the rest. So what I'll do now, I'll bring the rest on over to the left a little bit. Okay, so what we've done is we moved that rest over to the left a little bit, And we're gonna go ahead and lock it down. That laser is all the way at the very end of that arrow. So what that is doing is it's basically telling you that this bow is perfectly center shot at this point. We're not done tuning just yet. The tuning process hasn't even started, guys. This is just gonna get you going. And to be honest with you, in most cases, it's pretty darn close. You won't even have to make a whole heck of a lot of adjustments after this. All right, that's nice. Let's go ahead and pull that laser off of there. So now that we have the laser off of there, what we're gonna do is take another shot, man. Everybody likes shooting their bows, right? We'll go ahead and take one more shot out of this thing. Throw a quick cheap release on. Let's let this baby fire. Let's let it rip. Man, that thing is sweet. Now keep in mind, this is a super tune, not to be mistaken for a bare shaft tune or a paper tune. But this will get you closer than what most pro shops will be able to get you, and it's a very affordable way to do so.